You to grow, you raised, multiple rounds of funding. Your Series C was actually a down round. What was that like? You're growing the business, raising more money. You're fighting off competitors. How did you manage that, and what was that experience like?
It was very tough. I mean, because on the one hand, you see all of the internal metrics going in the right direction. You're growing organically. You're growing quite quickly organically. You see that the market is perhaps larger than you expect. These are all the positive signs on one side of the equation. On the other hand, to your point, we're also investing in scale, because this is a business where you need enough order volume to make the math work. To get there, you have to invest before you get the demand. And so we needed to raise capital. And there were a few years actually in a row, 3 years in a row, 2016, 17, 18, where I continued to struggle to raise capital. And I think this was the part that was quite difficult for us, where you have a company whose product seems to be moving in the right direction across any metric, any way you want to cut the data. On the flip side, I'm receiving hundreds of rejections for investment. I think this was certainly one of the most difficult periods so far that we've had to overcome.
From the outside, like having never been fully a growth investor, in theory it should be deterministic. Like mechanically, what the growth investor should be doing is, well, I get to look at this data room, I get to look at this other data room. They certainly give the indication that they have a sense for what is normal in the market, and yet they were just wrong about you.
Well, I think one of the things I've learned that's tough for an investor is knowing when to invest. And I think that it's really easy to invest when the numbers are clear and that, the story of repeatable, profitable growth has happened enough times where you just believe. And then there are moments where it's just before that moment. And I think for DoorDash, 2016, 17, 18, a lot of those times or moments were just before that moment. It's not a game that's just measured on your own scores. It's a relative score in some ways, especially when a market hasn't been yet defined or that it's not obvious who the winner is. Investors were a bit gun shy because they saw lots of people going for it, people who were better capitalized. While DoorDash may have had very strong numbers, it wasn't obvious that it would emerge as the largest player.
I mean, the amazing thing is you came out of sort of the capital as a bludgeon phase as actually the winner. By 2019, you actually had surpassed Uber Eats and Grubhub, and you became the category leader.
Well, all you need is one investor to say yes. And so in 2018, when we raised our Series D in March, it was obvious to the team internally what was going to happen next. Everyone can have an opinion about their product versus the fields, but one of the hardest things to really fool is the retention and